Okay, let's talk about deep water jig fishing because that's what you guys are here for. Again, let's turn this to you guys first. We can talk about this for the next half an hour, 45 minutes without batting an eye. Literally just about fishing jigs in like 30 plus feet of water. Andrew, answer your Facebook message.
I'm not good at that. Just, dude, it's bad.
It's
I'm
bad.
at it.
Actually, hey, Dennis and I were just talking about that earlier. He's like, I tried to reach out to him, but he just like never responded. I was like, yeah, don't take that personal. He does that to everybody.
Literally everybody.
So, yeah, Jim, you're very welcome. Dude, it's one of those like if we have 2 or 3 like really bad weekends consecutively, I start really like looking around on social media. I'll check all my old fishing forums. I pay attention to what people are saying on Facebook and stuff, just to see like, okay, did I all of a sudden forget how to fish, or is everybody sucking right now?
Sorry, Jason, I forgot.
What did you forget?
No, I just completely forgot what the hell my idea was 3 months ago.
Oh my god!
I don't even know what I had for breakfast. Did I have?
Yeah, this is what I gotta deal with, people.
I don't know. Sorry.
So, hey, right. We can talk about everything and anything, like specifically just to deep water, and we will. So, I'm going to keep track of the conversation. I want you guys to fire questions at us first instead of us waiting until the end. Let's flip the script on this tonight. Anything you can think of, and if we start to see questions lagging, we'll just start driving the conversation from there. We'll talk about favorite jigs, our techniques, cadence, colors, gear, because the gear thing might surprise a lot of people. When you're talking about deep fishing, you've got a much bigger window of opportunity for what you can throw, regardless of water clarity and target species. And you're still going to be really successful. And that's the big thing that we're going to cover tonight. But without further ado, Ben Marshall, how you doing, buddy? Wait, yeah, there it goes. Paddle tails or craws? I'm having luck on the paddle tails myself.
Yes.
Bingo. There's no rhyme or reason to it.
No.
Like,
not really. I mean, we're not down there looking at the bait, seeing what the hell it's doing. But, I mean, if there could be current down there, and then we just don't know it. Making that tail, just doing this. But, I mean, I threw paddle tail first thing in the morning, got a fish on a jig. Sorry, I threw a paddle tail on a jig and got a fish first thing in the morning. And then I switched it over to the Flippin' Delight and didn't get touched on it. And I threw that for a good probably 2 hours. And then I switched back to my little Kitech, and I got bit, I think, 2 casts in a row, I believe, but I missed both of them because they were hitting it and quitting it as soon as you felt it.
Yeah, and
don't me.
That's paddle tail versus craw. It's kind of specifically for smallmouth. It's kind of like color choice. Like sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to it. They'll smoke green pumpkin for like 3 weeks straight. And all of a sudden it shuts off, and you got to go to brown. What did I just click?
I mean, if they're going after smelt, it's somewhat of a fishy kind of profile, and smelt gets smoked 30 feet up off the bottom, and it sinks down and hits the bottom. They're going to come and eat it.
Yep. And we've had plenty of days of that where we've been catching them with swim bait trailers, like on the fall. Actually, had quite a few days where like we didn't pick up on it right away, and then all of a sudden, like just for whatever it was, one of us happened to cast and had just enough tension on the line. We're like, is that a bite? You start reeling in. We're like, oh yeah, Jesus Christ, he bit that on the fall. We were in like 25, 30 feet of water, and he smoked it when it was only 10 feet down. So that. Sometimes a little bit longer swim bait trailer can have just as much dance and kick as something like a rage craw or the Beast Coast Flippin' Delight. We throw both because we've had so many good days doing both that it doesn't. It's kind of like color. Like some days they only want brown, and then some days they only want green or like really light grays and shit like that. Yeah. And same thing comes down to trailer preference. So you really can't go wrong with either one. I literally go fishing with 4 different jigs tied on right now. And I have 2 with craws and 2 with swim baits. And they're different color combinations, the whole 9 yards. Everything I throw now is contrasting colors. With the exception of this weekend, I actually went 100% green pumpkin on one just out of like a hunch. And that's what I caught all my jig fish on. So
100% black and didn't get bit at all.
Despite that usually being one of our better producing combos. Mm-hmm. So, yes, to your answer, both. play around with it. It's just like colors, man. You know, you got options, that's for sure. Jason, bass jigs or anything with jig head? Bass jigs, get out of here. Ryan, I'll pin this even though I shouldn't. Shh. It works.
It does.
It's kind of weird. Do you know what the benefit of the Magic Flick is? It has that natural quivering action with very, very little movement on your end to impart action into said bait. And it does a really good job of dancing. So, like, it seems silly to throw something so finesse in the back of a skirted jig, right? It makes it kind of look like a little bait fish swimming down there. Gordy, do those 40-foot and deeper depths affect your choice of jig colors? You want to go first?
Yeah, kind of. A lot of the times if we're fishing more shallow, like anywhere from like 10, 15 up to 20 feet, I will try more of like a green pumpkin-y. But as soon as I get down to like 35, 45, 55, 60 feet, the light down there just isn't the same.
Bingo.
And I like going either straight black or just really dark contrasting colors like brown and black or... Well, yeah, brown and black, really.
Or dark green pumpkin.
Or dark, like the dark green pumpkin with the black flake.
Yep.
And just because there's not as much light down there, they're not going to see the color as good. Or if the color changes at all with the baits you're using.
Yeah. And then now when you get, especially later into the year, when you have vegetation starting to die off, now you're talking about added turbidity inside of the water. So you're getting less light penetration due to the particulate in the water. So... yeah, the first 10 feet might look really, really good, nice and clean and clear prior to turnover, but down towards the bottom, depending on currents and what the wind has done the last few days, a lot of that stuff may have started to settle down a little bit. And that first 20 feet looks magical, but for all we know, that bottom 30 feet looks just dark, like way darker, and you wouldn't know. But that's something that we kind of just figured out through what we always do, just talking over, like, you know, it's kind of weird on this nice, beautiful, clear day and the water's gin clear. Like, why the hell are darker colors working better? And this typically happens more towards later in the season, again, when you get close to that turnover. And it clicked one day. We were talking about it. I was like, I wonder if it has something to do with the turbidity. And I do think that is the case. So those darker colors tend to be better, deeper, more often than not, just because of light penetration anyway. But especially when you get towards the end of the year with things dying off and creating those turbid conditions, and then the lake turning over just usually messes up the whole thing top to bottom anyway. So your light penetration becomes even worse. Some days, like it's not like a definitive yes, this is what happens. It's definitely circumstantial depending upon what you had for weather conditions leading up to it, during and after lake turnover. But yeah, in general, when you go in that deep, like Andrew said, darker colors. Ryan, where's my mouse? Can we stop buying all the open water snipers from Ben's? Struggle beating you them when he gets them back in stock. I've only bought a few from him because I usually get my jigs directly from Beast Coast. But I have bought a few from Ben's when I can. But I try and beat everybody to the punch at Beast Coast first. I mean, he's one of our primary sponsors outside of Lou's and Ben's, Strike King, and Ego, and FXR. So I try to support him first, though, as he put it. Like, end of the day, it doesn't matter where I buy him from as long as we're buying him. Right. So, but I try and help out everybody while I can. And if Beast Coast doesn't have him, I go straight to Ben's, because Ben's has like pretty much everything we need. So they're an absolutely great resource. Ryan had a slow north wind on Lake Ontario this morning and it turned to glass, but the sun popped out and the bite was on. Surface temp was 54.7. Damn, that's warm already. I actually didn't mean to pin that. Oh, yeah, wait until you feel a jig bite at 30 plus feet. It'll change your life. Wait until you get thumped by a 5+ pound smallmouth in 55 feet of water, which I know
fabulous.
You have, but for everybody else. And then this
is fabulous.
There's something else when you're that deep, which brings us to this point for Ryan. Not a shot, genuinely curious. Why do you throw the secret jig on a bait caster versus spinning gear? Secret jig being, well, a couple of different things, but open water sniper. Because I can. As stupid and simple as that sounds, it's really that simple. With the rods that we run, straight 15-pound fluorocarbon, half-ounce jig, Are we missing bites? Yeah, there's no way we're not missing a bite here and there that we're just straight up not feeling because we're not running braid. But nonetheless, we're still feeling plenty enough bites. So I don't feel like I'm really sacrificing that much. And it helps by always constantly keeping light tension on the line the whole time it's on the bottom. Always. And then the method that we fish, which we'll cover. So like for a long time, I used to fish spider jigs with braid to fluoro leader and then these other jigs. And then one day we're like, they're just probably going to eat it anyway. We were fishing shallow where we started throwing it out deeper and deeper. This is years ago. And they were still trucking it straight 15-pound fluoro. We're like, well, why the hell are we killing ourselves throwing light duty line when we could just literally jack them up and boat flip 5-pound smallmouth on straight 15-pound fluoro? Even when I went out to Lake Ontario, I threw all my jigs on straight 15-pound fluoro. I did just fine. So I think, I'm not saying this about you by any means, Ryan. I'm just speaking in general terms. I think we've convinced ourselves as anglers that we need to go way lighter than we really do the vast majority of the time.
I've literally thrown jerkbaits on 20-pound fluoro, like straight fluoro, and hammered them. Like, it's ridiculous. Mom, thank you.
Thank you very much, Carla, for the donation. Guys, you're making
my mom do all the friggin' work.
Yeah. Carla with another $25 donation. Thank you very much, Carla. Greatly appreciate you. If anybody else wants to jump on that donation train, by all means, go for it.
I am a strong believer that not all the time, but in most cases, your line doesn't really matter. If you're making, like Oliver said a month ago,
yeah,
if you're making the bait do the right thing, there's no reason why the bass shouldn't bite it.
No.
Whether you're tied straight braid or
Joe, I see
or like a 60-pound friggin' fluoro leader, they should be able to do it.
Yep. And Joe said it perfect because it's more fun to jack them.
Oh, dude, it's always fun to jack.
And again, I don't feel like we're sacrificing anything by fishing it on straight casting gear and straight fluoro. And especially in a lot of the areas that we fish, like New Hampshire being the granite state, a lot of granite around here, called that for a reason. So we're constantly fishing around some pretty rough rock. Vermont's no different, where you're fishing around a ton of zebra mussels and just shale ledge and crap.
If you've never fished around zebra mussels, it's like throwing your jig or whatever the hell you're throwing into like a vat of razor blades.
Oh yeah,
it's literally they'll cut you off without even knowing. You'll think it's pike, but no, it's just the bottom. That's all it is, just covered in little razor blade mussels.
I get line shy more than the fish, I think. Dude, we all have. I mean, that was me until 2 years ago, and then especially this year. We're just we don't need to be fishing as light a line as we always have. I'm tempted to go back to 10-pound on my drop shot just to prove a point. I have 2 rods I can effectively fish a drop shot. So, but I'm still getting my teeth kicked in with straight 8-pound on my drop shot anyway, so now's not a good time to be toying around with that.
I'm not even going to throw it anymore.
You will. You know what's good?
Eventually.
Just like everything else. Well, not everything else. A few other things where it's we both given up on it and I pick it back up. And by the 5th fish, you're like, all right, that's it. Where's that rod?
Yeah, I know. I'm going on over a year now without throwing it, so.
Yep. It's not like you've been missing out because I haven't done much of anything with it. Outside of that 4.8 3-pound smallmouth on Lake Ontario, I haven't done much at all with the drop shot this year. It's been pretty bad. JP, I like straight fluoro for my deep jig applications too. My man. Bob. What? Do you find that the jig colors are effective the whole lake, or does it change in different areas? You're thinking real hard. Do it.
Usually, no. Usually it doesn't really, depending on if the lake is completely different on the other end. If you're fishing one end, which is all grass, and then the other end is all rock or sand, it's 2 completely different lakes. It could make a difference for sure.
Yep. And wind direction, since sometimes can play a small
wind direction. Yeah.
It's so few and far between. I'm hesitant to even bring it up because There's only a few times I can think of, like a literal handful of times where there's been wind like blowing hard and consistent for days on end out of the same damn direction, and that has made one end of the lake a little bit dirtier than the other. But
In that case, I think size would matter.
Oops. Yeah.
I would change size instead of color at that point.
So, yeah, like Andrew said, I don't need to elaborate on that anymore.
I mean, do fish like daylight savings? They don't even know what the hell it is.
They like it.
They're like light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. And then when it gets later in the year, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. No, I don't think it matters.
No. For anybody that is here watching, by the way, again, thank you very much. We always appreciate the support. And two, if you haven't done so yet, please drop a like on the stream. Again, it helps more than you know. Anybody watching this after the live, when it's just up on the channel, even leaving comments behind, like all of that just helps us immensely. So if you could do that, please, would be very much appreciated. Ryan, do you change to a more finesse trailer during the fall or stick with the craw type trailers in deep water? Excellent question.
Wait, what?
So, yes, and yes, more finesse style trailer. Yeah, as the water gets colder, I go to a smaller, slimmer, deader action in everything. Everything specific to trailers. So, like, all summer I'll fish Rage Craws. The Beast Coast Flippin' Delight has been, like, the biggest player in our game.
Something that's doing this on the way down.
Yeah, wacky, waveable, inflatable armband style. And then...
You said that fast. Jesus.
God damn it. As it gets colder, I've got like a whole series of different jig trailers that the action gets, like, goes from my most extreme being a Flippin' Delight or striking Rage Craw all the way down to like a Zoom Super Chunk Junior, which is zero action but has the profile of a craw, and the appendages stick straight up when it's on the bottom. And I just slowly step my way down from that. But it's weird because, like, in the spring, I feel like I have to prolong that progression from dead to, like, really, really aggressive. But in the fall, it seems like it's a much, much, much shorter window where that really aggressive, craw trailer just continues to kill it up until usually right around now, like mid-50s. And then I step it down from like mid-50s to upper 40s to like that mid-action. And then from like 47 and below, I go to that dead action trailer. It's just really, really quick. And you know how New England weather, or just weather in the northern half of the U.S. is in general, all of a sudden we could get hit with a cold front. And before you know it, all our lake temps have dropped, like 10, 15 degrees inside of a 2 to 3 week period. It's crazy how fast it can go. So you have to just kind of follow along that same progression as all the weather. So... yes, definitely go to a more finesse trailer. And then I would say it's still 50-50 between craw type trailers and other trailers until it gets to really, really, really cold water. And then we just stick with other trailers. And I will say, lose the skirt at a certain point. This is where I was hesitant about this topic because there's like...
I thought you were going to say something, but
no, I can't give up. We have been phenomenal with you guys. We give you 95% of everything we know.
We worked our freaking ass off
for this. One thing we're not.
Sorry, but we can't tell you our juice on this part. But we will give you all the hints, and we will help you out as much as possible. Lots of no action.
JJ Fishing. Thanks for that Flippin' Delight modification. Smoked him up at Champ. I fished that jig like a crankbait, and they crushed it. You're very welcome, sir.
I have an idea.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to hear it.
Okay.
Can we share it, or is it like for us?
This is just us.
Okay, everybody shut up for 1 second. So she said what to you?
Yeah, dude.
Is it still burn?
Kinda.
You're welcome.
She's watching. I'm just kidding. Hey, I'm sorry. We were kidding.
Only many peas.
I think that would work.
Oh, yeah. I know it works down, and I can't even say it, because if I say it, everybody's going to know exactly what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
but,
yeah. No skirt.
Yeah. What? Skirt?
No skirt.
Skirt?
No skirt.
Skirt.
Oh, there she is.
Fantastic. Did I just drive by a car dealership, or was that Andrew doing a flipping impression? Oh, God.
Sorry, ladies. She's the one.
Does it still burn? Okay, anyway. What else you guys got for questions? Well, let's elaborate on gear a little bit, because please keep the questions coming, and we'll elaborate on this. We both fished literally the same thing. 7.2, 2.76, medium, heavy, fast, or heavy, fast, basically jig rod. Straight 15-pound Svigar Abrasics for fluorocarbon, and then the Lose Pro
SLP custom.
Well, we use a couple. I use the Custom Light, I use the Hypermag, and then I for the life of me, I can't remember that
carbon fiber
other
one?
$300 one. Yeah, the carbon fiber reel. I think it's 280
That's
actually.
the one I use.
They're all high-speed reels, because everything that we are doing to impart action on the jigs is through the rod, through the motion of a hand to rod. The only thing we're using that reel for is to take up slack as fast as you can, because more often than not, especially right now, they're going to thump it and sprint at you. And if you don't have a high-speed reel, good luck. Or braid, because that will help make up for a lot of that. But, oh my God, you usually have to catch up to a ton of slack that they'll knock into it.
That's not even, I mean, it's not even that they're running at you that you need to just pull up that slack. If you're fishing in 40, 50 feet of water, your line isn't going straight from your rod tip straight to your bait. It is a big, big swoop. And you gotta straighten that out before you set the hook.
Yep.
Or it's not gonna stick. It's gonna hit them, and it's just gonna pop right out.
Yep. And see, we can both get away with that, and I'm sure some of you as well. Some of you can as well, because I have what I like to consider a prime Mark McGuire on steroids hook set. That's my swing. So when I set the hook,
Trying to rip the jaw off the fish.
we don't miss. Now, that's our really deep water hook set, mind you. Like, it's not quite that violent in shallow water all the time. There's certain exceptions to this rule. So there's, yeah.
When we're drop shotting, we don't do that.
So you go the other way, and you could go braid to leader, and you could do that on casting gear if you prefer. I will say, though, that becomes a bit of a nightmare as you get later into the year right now, where we start getting below freezing temps. And this is the added benefit of sticking with just straight fluorocarbon. Because as you get below freezing, the water buildup, it's going to start icing and everything. And I have never hated anything more than trying to cast with frozen braid. And I don't care if it's in a casting rod or spinning rod. It sucks. So there's that added benefit to fishing it. But prior to freezing temps, I've also done it on a spinning rod, and I have two different ones, 7.2 medium heavy fast, and then a 6.9 medium heavy fast. But honestly, it's kind of funny. The shorter one is more stout. Excuse me. It's rated 3/8 to 3/4, but really it's like more like a 1/2 to 1 ounce rated rod. That thing is stout. It's got backbone. I caught a 29-inch striper that I foul hooked in the dorsal fin, and that rod didn't even bat an eye at pulling that thing in. And that's not a huge striper by any means, but still pretty good sized striper. And it was just like, it didn't matter. And that rod loves that. And then for more like 3/8 to half ounce ones, I have a Lose Custom Pro Speed Stick that's 7.2 medium heavy fast. And that does really, really well for those. And those I run straight 10 pound to 10 pound braid to fluoro, but sometimes I do 10 to 12 pound fluorocarbon. If we're in and around a lot of rocks, I've even gone to 15-pound fluorocarbon just so I have that little bit of extra added security when fishing up against all of the rocks and stuff. So you've got some wiggle room in doing that. And that works great. And having that braid absolutely helps when they're just giving it little butterfly kisses as they're biting it, and so you get a better chance of feeling it setting the hook, or they hammer it and they start coming at you. Either way, that braid really helps to make up for that. Guggen, don't pause.
Now they're talking about topwater stuff.
Oh. What did Ryan say? He's running a Douglas DXS, yep, 704F, 7-foot medium fast spinning rod, 300 Tatula, 10-pound braid, 15-pound FC Sniper fluoro leader. Yeah, that's phenomenal setup. You really can't ask for much more than that.
Those Douglas rods are nice, too.
So, JP, mono is the best in really cold temps from my experience. In regards to what? And are you talking about just for leader or like straight use?
I would never do that. That's, if you want to do that and you make it work, perfect, but I won't.
I can't.
never
There's too
will.
much stretch. And I tried it with my big baits.
In
and just
Vizex?
casting, I hated it.
What is it? Cigar and Vizex.
Which is fluoro, but it's almost like monofilament for how
It's
stretchy it is.
Floral, but it's not even that stretchy. Like, it is. I can tell. I'm sure you could tell.
That's why I use it on my cranking stuff.
I don't like it.
Yep.
I won't use it because it's just got that teeny tiny bit of stretch. I want my fluorocarbon to be more, like, if I could get one that's as sensitive as braid and like that stout, that's what I want.
For your fluoro?
Yeah.
That's why we throw a Brazex.
Yes.
Because that stuff is stout. A Brazex is a smoother casting version of Red Label, in my opinion. And Red Label is some stout line. It's stiff, but it's got line memory issues, especially when you're using like I think they still make 17 pound, but especially like their 20 pound. That 20 pound, 15 and 20 pound of Brazex is still like buttery smooth even 6 months after you've had it on the spool. That Red Label starts to get pretty curly after like the first month. Yeah. But performance-wise, beyond that, that Red Label is phenomenal. There's the reason I used that line exclusively for like 6 years before I started making enough money. I was like, yeah, I can afford to reline all 15 rods I own with a Brazex instead at 3x the cost. That stuff's not cheap. Jim B. Fishing deep. Are you throwing for fish you see on electronics or structure that looks good?
Usually structure.
Bingo.
I mean, if we're just kind of trolling along and we start marking fish, we'll throw the 360 down, see what there is for structure. I mean, we're also side imaging, so we'll be able to see. But once we set down the 360 and we're looking around and actually seeing what those fish should be holding on to, that's what we're going for.
Yep.
I mean, if there's fish on the bottom and you're on a big flat and you don't have 360 or anything, you can just fan cast and drag. And
as the water gets colder, that becomes more reliable. You don't have to specifically be on top of the structure. If you go over the top of it, and all you have is 2D structure, or 2D sonar, and you're marking either bait or fish, and keep in mind, there are times, like even right now, the fish are like tucked into the bottom. It's like they dug themselves a little mini pit that they have sunk like a quarter of their body into. They're hugging the bottom so tight. And if you're not staring at your graph to see the slight color change in what looks to be just the damn bottom, then you won't know that that's actually a fish that you're looking at. That's how tight they're hugging it right now. They will bounce in and out of that mood from here all the way to ice in. But especially as it gets really cold, like down into the mid 30s, it like that they are scraping. And if you're fortunate enough to fish places like Cape Cod area that has a bunch of ponds that stay ice-free almost year-round, most years. And I would say open year-round most years, but then there's, the occasional year or two where they'll all like skim over with an inch or two of ice for a couple weeks and you got to wait it out. But I've heard many, many stories of people that are catching smallmouth out of there that are literally coming up with mud caked to their bellies. That's how deep they're buried into the bottom and just hanging out. So as long as you can see the fish, whether they're 5 feet off the bottom or you happen to see that color change on your sonar, and either they're in the structure or they're around it, that's all you got to know. And from there, you can start fan casting around. Doubly so if you start making bait or marking bait. You can just fan cast around. I can blow my nose.
Go blow your nose.
I got her. But let me grab. That was Jim. Oh, hey Dan, how you doing, friend?
his monos for topwater.
Oh, there you go.
Sense.
There you go.
I thought you were saying for jigs. We need questions, peoples. Hi, Dan.
Well, you know what? You can talk about. You can start it. Well, blow my nose. We can start talking about cadence. Like especially
Cadence.
right now, going all the way to icing.
Okay, you're right. So, cadence for jigs this time of year. Now that it's getting, well, like a normal year, it would start getting a lot colder, and the water temps will drop, and so will your cadence. You want to slow it down. It's working up to ice in. Water temps, say mid 40s. I will wait 15, 20, 30 seconds, 45 seconds before I even move the jig after I cast it. Because sometimes they'll hit it while you're just sitting waiting there. Like they'll follow it down, they'll just sit there and watch it. and they'll just come and pick it up. Like sometimes it takes 2 or 3 drags, and I'm dragging it. I'm not popping it. I'm not lifting it off the bottom at all. That's why I want a heavy, either ½ ounce, sometimes 3/4 ounce jig to keep that thing on the bottom, and just slight drag, couple inches, 6 inches max, I would say. 6 inches, 6 inches to a foot drag, and then keep that tension on the line, and just wait. You will feel that bite. They're not going to bite it softly. If they do, you're going to lift up and you're going to know that fish is there because it's going to startle the shit out of them. They're just going to turn and you're just going, boom, there it is.
Boom, there it is. I came in the right time.
Most of the time, like right now, we're dragging a jig super slow. Like I'd wait 10, 15 seconds in between drags when you're moving it.
Are you answering Dan's question right now? Or is it just coincidence that you asked that question as you were answering that?
Do you slow drag tight tech?
Or just stick with a slow jig drag? I mean, it's one of the same.
Super, super slow. Like, practically to the point, like, when we're mid-30s, mid to high 30s, I'm waiting a minute in between drags. Minute and a half, sometimes 2 minutes. I'm pretty much just waiting to feel the bite. And then if I don't feel it within the first minute and a half, I'll just go, whoop.
That's it. Yeah, you're only moving it.
That's it.
Like 4 to 12 inches at a time, but it's usually more like 4 to 8 inches. At least that's the goal. Much. When you're that deep, you might be moving a little bit more or a little bit less because you're especially with us with straight fluoro, you're dealing with that huge swoop in your line anyway underwater. But that's kind of the goal of what we're trying to do. And it's drag. We're not hopping it. We're not like trying to get that little shimmy shake across the bottom. It's just drag.
Just a slight, once you feel the weight, drag. Stop.
Yep. And slow, too. I mean, it's like,
you're not,
as soon as you feel it, it's real slow. Mm-hmm. I mean, you want it to almost like dig into the bottom as it's just skirt.
Just to make enough commotion on the bottom where they're going to know something's there. And they'll come find it.
Oh, yeah.
They ain't afraid. They ain't scared.
Did you cover from like what we're doing right now all the way to cold water? I mean, it's essentially that. Now we're at the time of the year where they're
straight to cold water because it's going to be here before we know it.
That's true. We're doing the same thing right now all the way to ice in. Everything's on the bottom. With yesterday was the exception. This is something to keep in mind for those that go out this weekend while the water is still pretty warm. My 2 better bites that I got wasn't slow dragging or keeping it at the bottom. It was snapping it aggressively out of structure. And that was completely by accident. I got hung up on a rock, and I was trying to pop it free, and as soon as I popped it up, like it skyrocketed up, and it got smoked. That's how I caught that 4.5-pound smallmouth. That's not an odd thing to happen. That has worked plenty of times, but it tends to happen more often when we're dealing with warmer water. But it certainly seems to be working still now, even in the upper 50s. And that could be completely dependent upon conditions, more so than water temps, where we were dealing with temps that had fallen. Now they've stayed pretty stagnant here in the upper 50s. We had bluebird skies, 0 wind. Everything we saw was like tucked tight to structure in the bottom in general. So it just could have been that in those conditions, that was the reaction that we needed to get them to bite. And it certainly worked a couple times. But other than that, it's, as Andrew said, get on the bottom, slow drags. Right now, you don't have to go like as painfully slow and short. Like I'll kind of do that. And I'll move it like a foot or 2 at a time.
Moderate pace. Just,
yep.
And just pause. Wait 15, I'd say between 10 and 15 seconds.
Max, yeah.
And do it again.
With some exceptions. But yeah, that's a pretty good cadence to go with right there. And as every 3 to 4 degrees of the water temp is going to drop from here on out, you're just going to slightly prolong everything about that. You're going to prolong those pauses, and you're going to slow down the pace of your drags and also shorten up that distance for how much you drag it. And it really is as straightforward as that. Keep in mind with everything that we've said, this isn't going to make you go out there and catch 50, 60 fish, but it will help you with quality.
We're literally, when we go out that late in the year, we're literally going for 2 to 3 fish. Like, that's what I'm going up. We're kind of
2 to 3 fish each.
Each, that's what I mean.
Big fish.
Big fish each.
But yeah, we'll still get 10 to 20 fish on the day too.
Yeah, but we're going for those
giants.
Any 2 to 3 big bites, and they usually come. I mean, my first 5-pound smallie was followed up the next trip, same place. I think I got, what, two that day, the next day time we went up?
Yep.
And completely different ends of the day. One was in the morning and one was in the afternoon. You just grind it out.
5.2 and 5.28 or 6. No, 8. Smallmouth. Doing literally everything we were talking about. And both of those were, first one was 40 to 45
And
feet.
the other one was
55?
55 plus.
55 to 60, I think.
Yeah.
It was deep.
Because we were fishing this super deep kind of hump, kind of flat that just kind of rolls off into deep water. And I just bombed it out and towards the deep water. I was like, I'll make it up to that freaking hump eventually. And I thought it was a rock. And all of a sudden, it's been, like I said earlier, you're going to know it's a bite because you lift up and it's heavy and it just goes dunk. Gone. And I ended up setting the hook on it, thank God, and didn't lose it. But yeah, and they come up pretty quick too. When you set the hook in them from that deep, they come up and they still skyrocket even when the water's 30 degrees.
Yep. Oh, that's a crap link. Hang on. Oops. Well, that also works.
What the heck are you doing?
There we go.
Oh, wait, who got a glide fish?
Remove. We'll get there in a second. Hey, I got to bounce between comments because I had one pinned we didn't get to address yet. But Ryan had a really good question, or good point here. Sounds like you're popping it out of structure, mimicking fleeing gobies. Yeah. Obviously, where we are, there's no gobies, but everything we're fishing around is primarily smelt, although right now they're really not that deep. But yellow perch, on the other hand, those little bastards are down there. We know that because we catch them. We catch them out there often. Those little bastards definitely moved out deep, and they're roaming in the same exact areas that we're primarily catching all these smallmouth out of. And they'll get right down the same structure. Last weekend and the weekend before that during the tournament, we were catching like smallmouth, perch, smallmouth, perch. Like, they're mingling. So a lot of what we do right now, oddly enough, most of our bites aren't even on perch pattern stuff. Like, some of them, yeah, and that has been better in the past, but there's like completely different colors. There's got to be something that the perch are feeding on too, and the smallmouth are just in the same area as the perch, feeding on probably what the perch are eating and the perch themselves. So there's that to consider. But yeah, that's essentially what you're doing. But then the other question you had, Ryan, I had it pinned for a second. Where'd it go? Oh. Can you show us your second favorite smallie jig besides the open water sniper? I don't have one readily available. Spider jig. That is like literally one of the best, most simple jigs you can throw for smallmouth. Ice out to ice in. I have said that probably through 60 plus of these shows that we've done. I probably another 100 different videos I have up out of the 340 channel videos I have on the channel that due to spider jig, which is a twin-tailed hula grub on a football jig or a ball head jig. Spider pig does whatever a spider pig does. Anyway. It's this dude, like,
Hey, Wish just told me that everyone needs good fishing gear.
that damn right, Wish.
Hell, Wish.
Dude, there's something so magical about just a twin-tailed hula grub on a football jig. It works. I don't know what else to say about it other than, like, at this time of the year. Although, actually, last year was the first year I didn't throw it so often because we found some other jigs, like open water sniper, for example, that was just killing it. So I didn't even bother to tie it on because I was like, this is working so well. All thought for everything else went out the window. But I will not be doing that this year. You better believe I'm going to have a spider jig tied on. Oh, there we go. It was Alec. Evening. Hey, friend. Happy to say I finally broke in my swim bait setup today after neglecting all season. Got my first glide bait fish. Yes.
I'm proud of you.
Congrats, buddy. How big was it?
And what'd you get it on? Like, what bait?
I want to hear it.
I want to know. Tell us we're your friends.
All right. Only caught small ones at Guggen only caught small ones at Candlewood last Saturday. Biggest like 3 pounds or bigger. I'd still take that. I'm happy with that. Anything, get over a 3+ in the day, I'm feeling pretty good. Much happier when it's 4+. But as long as I catch one at least 3+ pounds, I feel pretty good. Yeah, Dan. I like the thingamajig from Crazy Hick Bait. Same as a hula grub. Damn freaking right, Dan. Damn right, Dan.
Damn right, Dan. Dan right, damn.
Okay, so we covered... I think we didn't really cover colors. Like we can get to that next, but we've covered.
We do dark.
Yeah, no, actually, right. We didn't cover it from a broad sense, but that's okay because we've done that plenty of other times. But if anybody wants us to talk about it again, by all means, just say the word. We will do that. We covered gear. We covered cadence because that's a big one. What you're doing to change during water temps. I guess aside from, I guess we haven't really been specific about what jigs we throw and why. Although the why is pretty straightforward, just because they freaking work.
Where?
You know, sometimes...
Joe Bircho, where?
Whoa. If Andrew's up for another tree climbing extraction, I have a Roman made 64. Oh, my God!
I'm going. I don't care how high it is. I've been hundreds of feet on a building. I'm okay with heights.
Do we need to cancel our plans this Sunday and go up there with Joe to get his bait back? Does Jackson want to come all the way up to Winnie with us?
Winnie.
That's a long haul. I wouldn't even bring my son up there. He would be miserable.
Yeah.
Could we get up there in time Saturday after work? Make another video. Bear Adventures Part 2. I was unsuccessful. We'll send coordinates. Buddy, that's a really expensive bait to be that high up in a tree. Anyway, we'll wait for coordinates. So I guess colors and jig sizes and preferences. At this point, should be no secret whatsoever that our absolute go-to bait is the open water sniper. And it's a football jig minus the brush guard. It's a shorter skirt than any of your other standard traditional football jigs. And it's got a 2/0 hook, which is nice because you can get away with much smaller trailers on it. So you get this nice, bulky, but short, just overall presentation. And it has been phenomenal for us. Stepping back from that a little bit, you can cut a lot of those strands out if you have a bunch of extra jigs. You're willing to do that to make the presentation a little bit more subtle, a little bit more finesse. And that a lot of that just comes from the skirt count, the strand count in the skirt. So you can do that. You can take any of your regular football jigs, whether it be, say, like a Strike King tour grade jig, right? Cut a 1/2 inch off the skirt length on everything. Rip the brush guard out.
Rip it out. Well, you can't rip it out. You got to cut it out.
No, you can rip it out. You take those pliers and you clamp tight and you basically just roll the pliers over like against the head and you kind of pop it out because it's just a little bit of epoxy that holds it in most of the time.
Oh, okay.
You can do that with any of the Beast Coast jigs, whether it be the Maxfield or Vanquish. If we're doing things like this, we're typically doing this with football jigs. You can just do it with a regular ball jig. Take a Strike King Rage Craw, trim it down 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. You can play around with a lot of it. That's literally the gist of what we do with all of these jigs. If I had to pick one, it's going to be a 1/2 ounce open water sniper. That's the bulk of what we catch these fish on, what we're talking about right now, for everything for this deep water stuff. Prior to the sniper being out, it was just a regular 1/2 ounce football jig.
Literally naked football jig.
Yep.
With a trailer on it. That's it.
Whether it be swim bait or like a whole myriad number of different craw trailers. Sometimes a really, really simple, subtle presentation is the way to go. You can get different football jigs like 1/2 ounce lead-free bass jigs out of Massachusetts. They have actually they may even have 3/8. But without a doubt, I know they have 1/2, 3/4, and 1 ounce football heads with 1/0 hooks. See if you want something really teeny tiny, but you need a heavy weight to get it down, he's your guy. And they're phenomenal. They're wicked good value for their money. It's incredible value. Pretty much everything he sells is, if you're looking for lead-free stuff. And we've gone through probably a couple hundred of those jigs ourselves. But they work great. Mm-hmm. Color combinations, dude, there is nothing. There's no wrong answer. We have done it with black, browns, black and browns, all green, green and blacks, green and browns, black and orange, pure orange, like
straight black, like it
yeah, like 100% everything black, no color flake, nothing, just black jig, black trailer, super clear water too.
It's just keep them dark. The colder you get, the darker you want to be.
Yep.
And the deep, well, I wouldn't say the colder it gets. The deeper you go, the darker you want to be.
Oh, Derek, you really should go back and watch the glide show that we did with Oliver. But the short and skinny bait sanity, river to sea is it's still pretty good. the hell was the other one? The Stormarashi.
The Stormarashi. That's pretty much the one that got me going on glides was the Stormarashi.
Yep.
The 7.5 or 8-inch one. I don't remember how big it is, but
those are all good. But that's off topic for tonight. So you got to go back and watch that show. But I didn't want to just leave you hanging.
Jigs.
Bait Sanity Antidote is very good for that price. Yeah, Guggen, I'm glad you brought this up. Is orange still not producing like the past? What about the new PBJ-like color? I found river smallies that really liked the PBJ and brown. Yeah, orange, oddly enough, still not doing crap for us this year. I don't get it, but I don't know. I can't figure it out. All I know is that they won't touch it with the exception of 1.5 pound smallmouth I caught this past Sunday on that new orange one, orange open water sniper from Beast Coast. And I had a Pro Staff colored Kitech on the back, 3.3 inch. There's like that green and orange laminate. Like I had some extras. I'm looking at the combos. I'm like, yeah, what the hell? Like if we're gonna find out if they're eating orange, I'm gonna throw them orange.
You threw that orange, and that thing was. It was like
bright.
this. It was like throwing this down the bottom. It was nuts. You got one.
So yeah, it's yeah. I don't know.
Luck of the draw, probably time of day too, type of deal.
Yeah, probably. I tell you what though, we've been at this for almost an hour. That's kind of like been our goal for what we've been trying to do lately. I still see there's 60 of you tonight, which is friggin' phenomenal. So again, thank you very much for everybody that's watching. We both greatly appreciate you taking your time to watch us. If you haven't done it yet, please drop a like on the stream before you go. Like seriously, it's just a quick click and it helps us more than you know. Like that's one of the biggest things for helping us grow through just getting any of our content to recommend to other viewers, the whole 9 yards. Likes and comments and shares. Those are the 3 biggest components for helping on the YouTube algorithm end. Sharing any of the videos, there is nothing more powerful than word of mouth. So for anybody that has gone out of their way to share our videos after the fact, like I cannot tell you how much that means to me, because that is by far the single biggest reason for the vast majority of our growth, because you guys just tell your friends or family or whoever, or you're just sharing it out there for other people to see. And that's, you can't put a price on that. You can't put a value on it. It's seriously the single best thing to help us grow. So anybody that does any of that, seriously, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, Derek, jigs all day. Still 100%. Got a 4.7 on an open water sniper out west this weekend. Yeah. Like it. I'm still looking for another 5+ smallmouth. Although at this point, if it's 5+, it's probably going to be my PB, because I have a meager 5.06 pounds for my PB. It's adorable. No, it's still a tank.
Damn good fish.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that I get that like 5.5.
You're gonna get that before I beat mine. Before I beat my largemouth PB.
Yeah, probably only because we don't have that far to go for a PB small. You get a mountain to climb for your PB largie. We both do.
Yeah, I know.
But that's what we're after. Like literally the rest of this year.
You're gonna catch a 7.7. I'm gonna catch a 7.5.
That would be pretty funny.
Oh man, I would be so irritated. Not really.
Yeah. Derek, there's no such thing as a season winding down. There's just longer drives and heavier, warmer gear to wear. Keep that season going. But before anybody else dips out,
what is our goal this year?
What is our goal?
Our goal this year to not have the boat on the water.
Absolute max I want to go is 3 weeks of not being in the boat this winter, and I'm pretty confident we can pull it off. The only thing that's gonna suck is we're gonna have to drive through a lot of snow a couple of weekends to make that work until we get past like south of Boston to get out of the snow. But that's okay. That's why I bought a travel cover for my boat so I don't fill it. And I don't care how dirty everything gets on the outside, as long as the inside of the boat isn't full of salt and sand. And I would hit it with a car wash when I get home, and everything's okie dokie. 3 weeks. We went 6 weeks the last 2 winters between last trip and first trip. Although this season we started our year in February, which was amazing, and we ended it in January. So we actually didn't miss a single month since March of 2021. We have fished every single month, coming up on almost 2 full years.
It's pretty cool.
My goal, we fish into February. And then we have a 3-week window inside of February we don't fish. We're back at the end of February. First weekend of February is where we take a break, and the last weekend of February we get right back to it.
You're right.
3 weeks to get enough sleep to get us going for the next 49 weeks.
By the way, MD, Depends largemouth or smallmouth. I think smallmouth with like scrambled eggs.
What the fuck
Look at
is
the
this?
teeny little mouths. And a largemouth would just engulf an omelet. It's hello.
Yeah.
No, we're not skipping the expo.
No, we'll be at the expo. Man, probably not for that Sunday because that's the only day that we can both go fishing. Well, skipping the expo as far as having a booth, yeah, unfortunately, we can't do it this year. I got some other things I got to get going before I can make that financial commitment again to make that work. So, I don't know. We'll figure it out. But we'll be there at the very least. I'll probably be there Friday, at least in the afternoon, for the New England Expo in January in Boxborough, Mass. And then I'll probably be there all day Saturday.
I'll probably be there both days this year.
And then Sunday we'll be fishing.
Oh, Sunday we're fishing. Okay, just kidding. I probably won't be there both days, but I'll definitely be there. I'll probably take the Saturday off just because I want to.
Damn right. Be there all day Saturday. Hug some... Wait, no.
What?
Sign some babies. Kiss some... No, it's the other way around. Kiss some babies, sign some... Yeah. Anyway.
Oh. Jesus. God, Mom's watching.
Mass Real. Where area do you head to in New Hampshire for the snow? We go way up in Vermont and way up in New Hampshire, right until ice in. And snow be damned. We literally drive with 300 pounds of sand in the back of the truck, and we sprinkle it out over the boat ramp when we need to. Till then after that, we go down into Connecticut to a couple of choice ponds, Candlewood being one of them, or get down to Cape Cod in Mass. And you really, like, even not that far south of Boston, it's a totally different world. And we're in Milford, so like we really don't get that much snow here in New Hampshire. We do and we don't, but we're not that far from Boston. Is really what I meant to say. But then the moment you get to Boston, like north to south as the crow flies, it's not that far.
Only like an hour and a half to get to Boston, which really isn't that far.
No, and that's with some traffic. But then, like, dude, when you get down there, like, it's a totally different world. It's like, okay, we literally just left 3 feet of snow at like in the worst of conditions here where we live, and there's nothing here. And as soon as you get like 10 miles, 20 miles outside of Boston, it's like a completely different world. It's like there's no snow, there's no ice. It's great. And we'll just keep continuing to drive further and further south beyond that. And then there's like 20 different ponds down in Cape Cod area that stay ice-free all year, that have ramps, that public access, and you can get a bass boat in there. So that's what we'll do.
Yes, sir.
Flipping comp. Yes. So that is one thing I have to talk to Dan about. Dan, if you're still here, we're still... I'm seeing. Sorry. I still want to help run the flipping competition for both expos this year, and put a lot more planning into it if I can run it this year, unless you already have somebody in place. But Dan, we can talk about that offline. But yeah, I'm one way or another, I'm sure there's gonna be a flipping comp. We'll make it a big thing this year. Oh, you're gonna be at the Douglas booth. All right, Ryan, we'll be there.
Oh, all right.
Dan, it's all good. Made the right call to get out. Put it in perspective. Last year, same weekend, same day, 20-pound win. So yeah. Hey, there's nothing you can do to plan about that, Dan. It happens, man. Like sometimes the weather cooperates, sometimes it doesn't. That's the gamble we take fishing this late in the year. It was unfortunate timing that there was a cold front the night before you ended up fishing that tournament. Like you can't plan around that. This is what it is. That's New England fishing at its finest. Sometimes the weather lines up like you had last year, and you get guys at 20 pounds to win, which is phenomenal. And there's other days where the weather does not line up, and trying to go in and fish a pond and been too completely blind with 28 other boats in some abysmal conditions. So by like 10 o'clock, I'm sitting there like singing to myself like, this sucks so much.
And I was like, glad I didn't go. Just kidding.
That weather was brutal. That's just timing. You know how it goes.
I'd rather been there than at work.
Yeah. Bad day of fishing will always beat any day at work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how much you love your job. I'd rather be out in the boat regardless. It was nice
Unless
out.
your job is fishing, then
Then you go.
You.
All right. Any parting thoughts? Or are we good to wrap this up? I am hoping that we answered enough questions, that we were able to elaborate enough things for you guys to give you a better understanding of what exactly it is that we do for our success with deep water jigs.
The deeper you go, the colder it gets, the slower you fish. If there's anything
your
you
golden
need to
rule.
take out of this, that's what it is. Slow. I don't know how many times we've said it in streams past and in the winter, and you you just have to slow down or you're not going to catch anything. There's some random days where you need to work it fast for some reason, like jerk baits, but if you're fishing jigs, super deep, fish them slow. You will catch fish.
Ooh. I have good information for you, sir.
Cool.
All right.
Oh, Dennis? Sec. I'll read that.
Denisovich. Okay. Tell you what, we'll wrap it up. So
We're
everybody is
gonna
saying
wrap it
thank
up.
you.
Roll it up.
We thank you.
I'm going to light it up.
Thank you, Jim. Guggen, yes, it's going to be beautiful weather this year. It's probably going to make for some abysmal fishing. Please keep that in mind, folks. We're going the wrong direction now with overall water temps, and it's going to make things either like magical, which can be the case in some of these smaller kettle ponds, or it's going to make it miserable, which is what I really think is going to happen. We'll see how it goes. We wish you all the best of luck this weekend. Hopefully you guys get out there and at least enjoy the beautiful weather. The last few warm days of the season, more likely than not.
Probably this week is going to be the last warm week that we have.
Yep.
This week and maybe next week, but that's it.
I'm going to ask every week, if you guys have any topic ideas you want us to cover, do so. I don't care how you reach out to us. Put it in the comments on this video after it's gone up. You can do it now because I have it set up so the live chat replay always shows up when you go watch the video after the fact. You want to message me on Facebook, on Instagram, on Fishbrain. I don't care. Anywhere you guys want to send us suggestions or topics, hit us up. We're always looking for them.
I'm going to call you all out. Just 38 likes. There's 51 of you here. What's going on?
I bet if we look at the analytics, there's probably over 200 people that were here too.
Probably, yeah.
More likes.
But anyway,
sign it off.
Until next week, we will see you guys next week. That didn't really work out the way I planned it in my head.
That's okay. Try again.
But 8 o'clock every week on Wednesdays at youtube.com/603bass. See you guys next week on Wednesday at 8 o'clock.
Bye.
Bye.